Hello, hello, my friends. Welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Paco, and I'm here with our good friend Andre, no stranger to these productions. Andre, what's going on?
What's up, man? Welcome to everybody. I'm coming in from Brooklyn, New York. It is a actually really lovely day. It's 64 in February.
64. That seems uncommon for New York. I feel like you guys are usually freezing your butts off around that time.
Well, it's Black History Month. Trying to do the best we can to make everybody happy.
There you go.
We get to talk to Zeus and Jesus sometimes, and they change the weather.
Love it.
But no, it's
That's
really
awesome.
nice. How is it where you're at? Where you don't need to reveal
It's
that.
cold. I am in the California mountains, and there is much needed snow. So, California has been in a drought, so I will take any snow that we can get. Right on. So, here's Andre. We're going to get into his introduction in just a second, but I do got to do my housekeeping items. So, first of all, if you missed the stream before ours, be sure to check out the Creative Encores for the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge. They are happening at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Also, we are on be.net/Adobe Live. That is where the conversation's taking place. That's where I'll be looking at the chat. That's where you all can interact with us. So this is a live stream. It's, you can go watch YouTube tutorials anytime you want. But guess what? This is a two-way engagement. You can talk with us. You can ask any questions. You can ask Andre anything, almost anything. He may or may not answer it, but he does a pretty good job at it. But yeah, I'll be looking at the chat. So looking at the chat right now, I see that we have Umacorn, we got Jack Watson, we got our one and only Voodoo Val and Wade, the mods, always keeping the chat nice and civil and being our awesome friends. So yeah, anybody who's tuning in, why don't you go ahead and go to be.net/Adobe Live, and why don't you pop in and let us know where you're tuning in from. All right, so cool. Without further ado, Andre, what is up, man? I know a lot of us know who you are, but in case we have some viewers that don't know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So to start, I live in Brooklyn, New York, but I was born in Kingston, Jamaica. So any folks that are watching internationally, please let me know. I'm always super interested in folks that are sorry about that. They're bucking time zones just to hang out. Um,
Someone's
I have
revving
a
it up outside. He's
I have
like,
a
he's
neighbor
like,
that
what's up, Andre?
he's definitely not watching the live, but he's a lovely man. So my name's Aundre Larrow. I'm a Brooklyn-based visual artist. I used to just identify as an image maker, but I think especially in the last 18 months or so, I've really spent a lot of time directing things. We can link into this later, but like one of the last things I made last year was this lovely holiday video that we are not going to watch at the moment. But I think work has been one of the things during the pandemic that I've used to kind of keep myself sane, and getting practice, getting to direct pieces of motion have been really, really helpful for me. And so, the point of this live stream is to help you get some better tools, but really it starts with you believing that you are worthy of, whatever's before you. So last year, beginning of the year, my friend Helen, so 2021, she is amazing. She's a director. She actually just made this. She just show ran this new HBO Max show with Lisa Ling. She called the TV show that we normally work on, where I take photos for. And when she was leaving, she said, "You guys should cultivate some new talent." And I think Dre, what she calls me, should be a director. And I was mortified,
Hey,
right? I was
that's
so
pretty cool.
scared. And so, I mean, if you're looking back on it, that was before any of this Creative BIPOC stuff. This was just right around the time where I had some photos that were used for commercial, but primarily I was doing a lot of photography. But I think that, in many ways I got into photography, one of the things that inspired me was I just love film. So like in college, I remember I had this crush on this woman, shout out to Vanity Yellow, and she was a film student, and we'd hang out on Saturdays and just watch movies on the IMDb top 250 list. We'd watch foreign films, and like I was just so interested in all of it. But it took this person beginning of last year pushing me to say, "Hey, I think this is something you can do." So hopefully, even in a small way, Papa and I can be those folks for you today. We have some things to go over, but really, since this is a live stream, our goal is to just have you leaving this feeling more empowered as a creative, and to feel more confident in your abilities, so you can go film make, or maybe for you that's illustrate, maybe that is running your small business and like upgrading the social media. There are so many things you can do with your creativity, and really creativity just boils down to figuring out what you need and getting to that by any means necessary. So without any further ado, we're actually sitting on my Instagram, which I'm sure you figured out, unless you
We are, yeah.
lived
We
in
are on it.
the world for the last decade or so and you don't know what that is. Instagram is a photo sharing platform where I get to share a lot of my work.
Hey, Andre, sorry to interrupt. Before you keep going, though, we do have your audio a little low. So can you increase your mic gain just a little bit? You can either bring it a little bit closer to you or just kind of turn it up from the source.
How about that?
Oh, boy, that's loud here. Hold on a
Oh, too
second.
loud?
Yeah, yeah, hold on.
Sorry.
That's on me. No, let me go here. Try again.
How about now?
I think that's better. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I can also
Cool.
turn it up. I have, shout out to Logitech folks. I have this like very aggro arm. So I'm just like, yo,
Oh my
what's going
goodness,
on? You know what
look at
time it is. Sorry.
You're like a true podcaster now with the mic right there.
I just feel like it's the mic in the frame to me is such an aggro thing. It's just so aggressive. Like it's like Jaws.
Yeah, it can be.
So it's like
It can
you're just
be.
like, oh, you're like, oh my gosh, like what's going on?
It's kind of like mine. Mine's right here. Podcasting voice. Check, check. Yeah. So, but that sounds a lot better. Thank you for doing that.
No,
Anyways,
absolutely.
let's go back to your Instagram. Let's see what's going on there.
Instagram is super important to me because that's how I reach out and connect with my followers, connect with my community. For you, that could be something else. It could be Discord, it could be YouTube, it could be Twitter, it could be a small group of people or a large group of people you connect with in person. But I would encourage you as a means to see a project through the end, find a way for you to share it. I think digital artists often don't get the opportunity to share their work, and it can be difficult for them to say, okay, this is done. So find ways to celebrate the things that you're making. And for me, when I finish a project, like, let's see, I did a short film called Float that I made with the iPhone that was really cool. It went like baby viral last year. But one of the coolest parts about it was shared all over social, and the Brooklyn Library was sweet enough to play it, project it on the side of the library 2 times. It was really cool. And so my friend made a poster for me.
This?
You can watch it on YouTube. I would say the best link is actually to watch it on Vimeo, and that's no shade to YouTube or Instagram. But the compression's a little funny. Later when we are, taking a pause, I can pull that link. But
Cool.
yeah. And if you've seen Float, thank you. And if you haven't, it's kind of a cool 2 minutes. I made it with this phone and a couple other iPhones, which is once again like a testament to like really just making what you can by any means necessary. So you wanted to come to the stream today to learn things. Obviously, maybe some of you were like, oh, Aundre's cool, but majority of you are creative professionals or the visually curious. So I wanted to make sure that we didn't turn this into the full Aundre show, and we really drilled down on what you can do. So we talked about Float. We talked about the fact that I made it with my iPhone. So that begs the question, what else can you make with your iPhone, right? My phone is right here. It's plugged in. And it is, I know gear folks are curious. I believe it's the 13 Pro. Which iPhone are we on now? I always forget.
I think 13. Yeah. I'm a scrub with the 12 apparently.
Get away from me, you Pharisee. No, but what's kind of important, what's kind of cool about it is we're going to be spending almost all of our time in Lightroom, and we're going to open today in Lightroom Mobile. Why? Because it's free to use. So
free to use. Well, let's get on in there. Let's see what's going on with Lightroom Mobile.
So
there we go.
I have Lightroom Mobile open. Shout out to Paco for actually, it's like you even like you made a little illustration of my phone. It's so nice. And one of my photos in the background. What?
I got you.
Yo,
I got you, man.
I'm feeling fancy. So I'm kind of a weirdo. I keep all my apps color organized. You don't have to do that. But for me, it's an easy way to find it. And just to start, let's just open up Lightroom. Tap to open. I'm going to just give you a quick tutorial here so you know where everything is. If you've already seen this, forgive me, but I'm trying to make sure that everyone feels included. So first and foremost, at the bottom row, I have this thing called show, like touches on. And if you're ever doing a screen record, so like let's say you're a talented artist, which you already are, and someone says, hey, Paco, like, how did you make this thing? Instead of just being like writing it out, I did this and this and this, a screen record is actually a nice way to do it. And then you can do this thing to turn your touches on so folks can know where your finger's going.
Yeah, so, thank you for turning that on, by the way. We usually like that on the stream anyway, just so we have context on where those little touches are going. So very good stuff.
So all you need for this tutorial is a phone and these hands. Well, not my hands, your hands. But you understand. Hands. You don't need my hands. I need my hands. So anyway,
what if I wanted
getting into it. At the bottom of the way this is organized, when you open Lightroom, actually let me close it so you can see when it opens up. Just so you know I'm not faking. No got anything preloaded or anything. At the
There it is.
bottom, this organization is this interface is organized in a way to have you get to your photos as quickly as possible. Lightroom, the way I would describe it for the folks that have been editing for a while, it's like if Camera Raw and Bridge had a baby. So Camera Raw is a way that you edit raw photos on Photoshop, and Adobe Bridge was the way that in college we used to organize our images. So also it always throws me that it puts this time on there. I was like, it's 9 o'clock. Anyway, so the bottom we have library, shared, learn, and discover. We're going to talk about this a little more, but I just want to show you. So shared, one cool thing about Lightroom, there are two versions, as I'm sure you know. There's Lightroom Classic and there's Lightroom. Lightroom Classic is a storage-based solution that lets you organize your images. You can organize them with hard drives. I thought I had one out, but I guess not, with hard drives or on your hard drive for your computer, versus Lightroom, which we're looking at, is a web-based solution that uses the cloud.
Yes, sir.
Then,
and
oh, go ahead.
Aundre, we do have a question real quick. I'm gonna
Go ahead.
periodically interrupt.
And you can stop me for any
get
questions.
some chat engagement going. But the chat is asking, how do you get that red dot on iPhone?
Oh,
Or the little
the
show
iPhone,
touches.
if you hit,
Or I guess it's through app. Yeah.
You hit this little gear. You get information about, my email. Please don't email me. I'm busy. But if you go to gesture shortcuts, you have a couple things: cloud sync and storage. So that means like your cloud storage, how synced are your images, what's going on there. What's new will show you what the recent updates did, which is actually kind of a cool thing because they're constantly making changes, especially around Adobe Max. Then there's local storage, which lets you know what things you have stored locally, which is kind of a cool thing. I fly a lot, so often what I'll do is I have an iPad that I'm not sure where it is, but on planes I'll edit on the iPad. So I will import an image, have it backed up to cloud, then I'll store it locally on the iPad so I can edit the photos without needing an internet connection, because no one has ever used plane Wi-Fi for anything truly useful. So that's a good way to do it. Import lets you know, do you want to automatically import things in your camera roll? I have this off because I save a lot of memes and I don't need those in my Lightroom. Watermarking you can do. I would just beg you to God to, watermarks are super tacky. I wouldn't do it. People view.
Yeah, you're either team watermark or not. I get both sides of the coin.
Very anti-watermark.
Honestly, I know. I mean, I understand. I mean, there's a thing. If you post photos anywhere, people can take them, and people want to be able to prove that, right? So I get both sides of the coin, but I think a watermark could be okay. Just don't make it big, right? Don't let it be like something that takes you away from the photo. So
that's my whole
Andre's clearly no watermark.
A very anti-watermark.
He's team no watermark, which
very
I get both sides of the coin for sure.
So People View lets you see, Adobe Sensei will scan the photos and see if you like if I have a lot of photos of Paco, it'll be like person, and I'll name him Paco and I can search for photos of him. But what we're looking for is gesture shortcuts. So this lets me know like different things. This is really important. We'll talk about this later. The edit before and after, which is tap and hold. So you can just tap and hold in a photo. Actually, let me just show you so you know what I'm talking about real quick. Here, a little bit of these photos from a Logitech thing. Here's a picture of Roth that I really love. It's a photo that y'all have seen if you follow me, but if you just press and hold, you'll see the before and the after. And it's actually really cool because it allows you to just see what edit did I make and did it go the full extent that I want it to. We're going to talk about little eyeballs in Lightroom in a minute when we go through a little editing tutorial, but I just wanted you to see what that meant. So let's get back out of here. Let's go back to our gear. And very lastly, gesture shortcuts, show touches. So let's turn this off. Now I'm tapping and you don't know where I'm tapping. Turn it back on.
Where's he tapping? Where is he tapping?
Now you can see.
There it is.
And so this is really helpful. So screen record is, for me, a great way. Because you can turn your microphone on, you can do a screen record and just say, oh, this is how I made my preset, this is how I made this edit, and it's easier for folks to follow along. If anyone has a parent that is technology challenged, that I know many of our parents are, I'm a big fan of screen sharing with my mom. And one of the ways I do that, not really in Lightroom because she doesn't edit a ton of her photos, but I use screen sharing all the time just to say, she'll like, oh, I don't know where this is. I'll say, here's a screen share, go from there.
Nice,
so
very cool. All right, let's get back into it.
Getting back into it now. So we have our learn and discover, which we'll kind of touch on a bit more soon, but learn is really cool. We can just touch on it really quick. I will use one of my learns because I don't trust other people all the time. Essentially, they are tutorials that are step-by-step. So just like the screen record can say, hey, this is how you do X, Y, and Z. This is how you move the color mix tool. This is how you use exposure. This is how you change your shadows. This is how you use sharpening. This is a little bit more because it's written kind of like a chapter book. So if you hit start tutorial, it'll take a minute to load the image. You can do this anywhere. So sometimes I'm on the train and I'm trying to figure out how I can, better use a sharpen tool. There's, as you can see at the bottom, there's like, 41 little parts of it. But if you click through, it'll kind of tell you what to do. And the blue has you work along with me. So, let's say we keep going. I'm going to start to write in things that say like, I'm cropping to do this. I really enjoy this because it not only says what I'm doing, but why I'm doing it. So much of today is about giving you more tools so you can express yourself better. But your why is the thing that I can't tell you that you're going to have to tell yourself. So that's kind of how the Learn works. And we'll talk about this more a little bit tomorrow. Please always heart my things if they're helpful. And then if we go to Discover, there are similar, but a little bit less robust. So you can kind of cut through a couple of them quickly. So here, if you hit Start Tutorial, you're probably wondering, this looks the same as the other one. Oh, it is. Sorry, my bad. I picked a tutorial. I didn't pick a Discover file. Excuse me. What I'm trying to do is, if I go over to Edits, let's pick this photo of my friend Navy, right? You'll see that if I just do nothing, this blue bar is going across and you're seeing edits that change. But just like before, if we press and hold, we'll see the before and the after. And if you just slide up, you can see every step I did. And with each step, you'll see the image change it. And let me pick a more dramatic one so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Here's a photo from early in the pandemic. So just watch. Right? So you see a little rotation. I have really big plants, so I water them all in my bathtub. But as you scroll, you can see, or even stop and be like, okay, he brought his highlights down. Okay, let me go to shadows. Let me just click through.
There's so much information to just learn by looking at the way other artists edit. This is a very cool feature.
But the coolest part about this, so you see this here, I don't have it. I already have this preset because it's mine, but a lot of artists have an opportunity at the bottom for you to hit save as preset. So you can be like, whoa, like Paco made this, Karina made this, Anthony made this. And I want to edit like them. And you can hit save and you can use the preset as a base for you to continue to edit.
Very cool. We do have a question from Jorge or George.
Yeah.
Do all of these conventions, quote unquote, carry over to other iterations of Lightroom? Or I guess if they're asking if this is only for Lightroom Mobile, or will this carry over to the other apps like Lightroom Classic?
So Lightroom Mobile is part of an ecosystem, because remember we talked about Lightroom being cloud-based. So there is this guy, your phone, then my beautiful iPad that is somewhere, and then my computer, which is what we're on. And all of them, what's kind of cool is this is built in a way that all of them work together. Now, every single edit you can do on your computer, you can't do on your phone. It's probably like 95% though. What you're trying to do is like all the things across those three all will sync. So you can see tutorials on your phone, on your iPad, on your computer. I can't speak to Lightroom Classic. Some of the presets and things will copy, but I'm not sure the web-based. Paco, you can answer this for me because I don't use Lightroom Classic that often. Some of the web-based stuff that that you're doing, that's like learning tutorials and stuff, isn't native in there, if I'm correct.
Great question. I only use Lightroom Classic and rarely touch the mobile one, but I do think, and someone may correct me if I'm wrong because I'm open to being wrong, is I do think that the remix feature through other artists, I think that's a Lightroom mobile or Lightroom feature only.
Yeah.
But we will investigate that.
We will investigate. We will tell you soon. Thank you. And also quickly, Paco shouted them out, but thank you to the moderators. For anyone in the chat, moderators work very hard to keep everyone safe, feeling comfortable. And they allow me to just talk about myself and not worry about what's going on. So shout out to moderators.
Thank you for the moderators. And thank you for everybody in the chat again. I'm seeing some great questions. I'm seeing some engagement. Again, just shouting out the chat. I'm looking at it. If you all have any questions, any comments, concerns, we are here. That's the beautiful thing about these live streams.
I believe Jadakiss said we are out here, but I don't know if that's necessarily true because I'm inside, but
that's true. Are we out there or are we in here? Who knows?
He said we outside. Anyway, so we're still in Lightroom Mobile. phones, looking at a video of me holding my phone with a video of my phone. Look at this. I'm scrolling. All right. So you're going to see, like I said, Lightroom is large, it's editing and it's organization. So just something to call out, because I think folks do this poorly. There are the first half of the organization is library. So library, it has photos. So here's like a photo of Kamau I took years ago. Kamau is a celebrity that I work with on his TV show. But there's also, if you hit this little arrow, there are photos I took with a Lightroom camera. So which we're going to discuss very soon, for different tutorials and things, different photos. This is back when we were still like promoting stuff. Here's a photo of my friend Karsten. You see it takes a minute to load up, but it's still super fast. Then you have recently added, which are things I recently imported based on date, recent edits. So these are all things that are helpful for you to figure out, oh, like, where's that photo of Giselle? Okay. This is a recent edited, let me grab it. And this is the full size raw file from the computer. I make these edits on my phone and then I open my computer right after and it'll be right there. Then there's people, which we talked about on the gesture thing. So now you can see, okay, here's some pictures of my friend Marshall. So I know, let me say I photographed Marshall with 5, 6, 12 different projects, and I'm looking for a specific project. I remember where it is. This is a good way to find it. Adobe Sensei, looks for face structure and puts it together. Sometimes it can be wrong, but honestly, it's been really good. And then deleted, which I have nothing in here right now, but it's self-explanatory. But the thing I wanted to point out down here for y'all is albums. So the main way that you can organize outside of the structure that Adobe gives you is through albums and folders. So an album is like a photo album, right? And so I have a fun little thing to show you. I have this, we're going to talk about these little Funko Pops in a minute. I brought these just for Anthony, but I have this little glass thing where I keep photos from things that have been recent in my life. I can't pull any closer because of this cord, but just so y'all can see it.
Cool.
So that's kind of like an album, right? But obviously, if I have more than 30 photos, I can't put them all in here. So what I do is on Lightroom, an album holds photos and a folder holds albums. So if you see, this looks like a folder. So let's go to 2021. This was last year. And you'll see that the way I organize my stuff is month. So 06, day, 25, year, _client. And if it's something I do, if it's a client I work with a lot, like Bloomberg or Logitech, I'll have another underscore, or the New York Times for the specific job. But I do it this way so that it's organized throughout the year and it's easy for me to find it. And so I would just encourage you, after we talk about all this fun stuff, I always like to start with organization because it's a quick way for you to stay organized and stay excited, positive, motivated, etc. Because then you can find things.
Yeah, I'd say naming conventions are huge when you start photographing the way that Aundre does. I'm sure you have just thousands, if not tens of thousands of photos. Yeah. It's key to have organization, and the whole date method is good. That's what I use personally too. I go by year and then by month, and then it also filters by, earlier the year, and then as it goes on, it gets later. And something about having it chronologically throughout the year, which is a little bit easier. So like, it's the shoot that I shot earlier this year, and it's just easier to find. So yes, I am with Aundre on this one. Organization and naming convention will take you so far once you start shooting hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands photos.
Let me do this, since I think folks think I'm kidding. I'm going to show you. I always like to do this because I think folks don't do this enough. This is my actual desktop, right?
We're going desktop. So I have boom desktop.
Oh, sorry about that. I have a bunch of folders in here. I have a NAS drive that backs up every hard drive I've had that hasn't failed. Smart. And so let's go to our first ever hard drive. You're seeing there are folders in here called cache, swag, cache. These are like freshman year of college things. There is something that just says archive photos. They're just named things like Metal Mount 50. And so if I ever have to go back in here, it's chaos. Right. Like actual chaos. Film scans, El Paso. When was this? Right? So just start the habit.
When was this?
Right? No, I'm serious. Because I know this was taken.
Cool. What about it?
So this was taken sometime in 2009 to 2010. But because I have folders from that. But if you look, that's one. Let's go to two. Two is still kind of all over the place. You'll see I have professional. Okay. So I'm starting to use some dates, 2013, but what am I looking for? So just do yourself a favor and start organizing. Now,
100%.
sorry, Paco, I didn't tell you before. I'm going to head back to my
No,
phone.
all good. And while you're doing that, I do have a question from the chat I'm going to relay to you.
Do it.
All right. What's your favorite thing to photograph? Portraits, landscapes, macro?
Who asked that? I'm curious.
Our friend Laura in the chat.
Oh, shout out to Laura. Okay.
What's
okay,
up, Laura?
Honestly, it depends. There is a J. Cole song I love that says, actually I'll give you the whole lyric. It is, my lowest moments came from trying to impress people that couldn't care if I'm on. I fiend to write the songs that raise the hair on my arms. So what does that mean? That means that I have now, with filmmaking, with photography, been trying to be laser focused on telling stories that I learned more about, things that matter in society, things that help folks feel like they can exercise digital empathy and learn more. And often that's through portraiture. I don't want to get super political, but today in Texas, the governor passed something about trans kids, and it was just very unfortunate. And so for me, throughout the pandemic, it's been an exercise in learning about why solidarity is important, how so many things that we have as rights are the result of activists that are Black, that are brown, that are queer, that have worked really hard for these things. And so part of my job as an image maker, part of my job as a person, is to find ways to tell those stories so that you can come on here and we can talk about Lightroom, and then maybe for 5 minutes I can say, hey, I did this story about these trans women last year and I learned a ton from them. And here's some images that show you why these folks are important. So awesome. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, great question, Laura, and awesome answer, Aundre.
Appreciate you talking. My man's out here from the mountains. Do they even have Wi-Fi in the mountains? How are you?
How am I online? I don't even know, man. It's just this fairy world where you just connect to the internet somehow.
We talk about how I just tried to use my mouse to click on the screen.
I see it moving around there.
Which was super weird. Let me go back to this. So, all right. So organization.
I am gonna have you move that mouse though, because now it's bothering me.
Oh, sorry.
Just get that little cursor out of there. All right, cool.
So we have our bottom row. Our top is search, which is super self-explanatory. You can search things like, just search the color blue. You can search things like through Adobe Sensei, which scans faces. You can also search things based on, like if you're like, man, I need to look for photos of phones. So let's just type in phone. And then we can find photos of phones generally. Like this even found this photo that I took for Sling TV of this man holding a phone, right? It's actually a really nice way.
As phone, or was this automated through Sensei?
Automated through Sensei. I did not tag these photos.
Wow. Yeah, I remember the old days when you just had to tag everything yourself. But look at that, you just don't.
So it's not perfect, but look, you're seeing phones more often than not, right?
It's getting it. Yep.
So that's search. This is notifications. So, if people like things that you do, this shows this cloud shows if my things are backed up or if I want to pause syncing. And then we already did the gear. So all that's left are these two little blue buttons, which are actually the main reason why we opened the app, but I just wanted to make sure we didn't jump straight in. The left one is you can add a photo. So since I don't have auto import on because I use a lot of memes, and you think I'm kidding, if you go to my camera roll, I bet you the first thing is, oh, videos of me and then memes.
There's the memes.
So instead, you can import things from camera roll. You can import things from files. You can also import things from camera device. If y'all haven't yet, there are little short, I don't know about Android phones, and I'm sure they have them actually, but SD card readers you can plug right into your iPhone, or if you're using a NAR box, or if you're just using like anything that has stuff, you can import the stuff directly. Or I've actually just recently learned how to use files. You can import things directly from files. So I can like go, oh, here is a photo that I have saved on my desktop. And like, let's say I want to edit it, it's added. But what we're really trying to do is go to this camera. So now you're going to see why I have these lovely little guys here waiting for y'all. If anybody knows what either of these are, it's a big hug. And Sora fell over. So jokes that for the folks that are in here, one thing that I wanted to shout out is that we are giving away an Adobe Creative Cloud subscription today as well as tomorrow. Now this is not the criteria.
Subtle drop. Crazy. Adobe Creative Cloud subscription given away today by Aundre. You heard that.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And so first of all, this is not going to impact you positively or negatively, but can anybody tell me what this is?
What the character is, or what that
Yo, the
type of
character
thing
is.
is?
The
Can I
character.
guess, or do we want to
No,
wait for
you are not.
chat?
Why would you guess? What are you
Because I
doing?
think I know, and I want
This
to know
man's
if
out
I'm
here talking about,
right.
can I guess? No, bro. You out here
I
hosting
don't
the
know.
thing, man.
I don't know if I know the answer. So we have a Spider Verse. I think this is in the
Close.
Spider
What
Verse,
is his name,
right?
though?
Yeah.
What is his name?
Okay, now I definitely know. Actually, Asa got it. Asa got it right off the bat. Is that
Miles
Miles
Morales,
Morales?
baby. Yep.
Yeah, there
This
we
is his
go.
first little Spider-Man outfit. This little Funko Pop that my friend Hannah Winston got me. Shout out to Hannah Winston. She is a very talented reporter. Let's make sure we shout out to our local news folks. But what I wanted to show y'all is we're going to go, and we're now in auto. This is the Lightroom camera, and this thing is robust, my G's. So you'll see that if you close the camera, you hit camera to open it. A couple things. First, top right corner, you have this flip button. So, my face. Let's go away
Whoa.
from it. Too much face and face.
Streamception, man.
Then we can change our file format from DNG to JPEG. So DNG
That's cool. I want
This is a
to
big deal.
highlight that you can shoot in DNG in camera. That's big.
You
Why
can
don't you let
even
our
do it.
fine friends know what that is real quick? Super
I
quick.
will. Let me see if I can get a DNG of my own face. I can get a DNG. So it's a DNG stands for digital negative. This is a terrible angle for me. Yeah, should I got a bad shoes in the back?
So I can play. Yeah, look at those shoes though.
Sorry. Okay.
A lot of kicks.
So DNG allows you to have additional detail. So what that means is, like, you see how there are these pictures, like there's a picture of myself and my friend Ajane and Quentin and Ari. Sometimes you take JPEG photos, like little edges, like how there's all this darkness in the edge of the photo, and then the frame of the Polaroid is white. Sometimes the details in the fringes can be hard to get, but DNG allows you to make allows you to have a larger gamut for your edits, right? So like,
yeah,
a JPEG file is smaller, so I wouldn't keep it in DNG all the time. But
right.
if you keep it, if you know you're going to take something that's important to you, something you want to really nail the edit, put it in digital negative. It's the same thing as photographing in RAW. So that's CR2 for my Canon people. That is, I forgot what
I know this. NEF. I think it's Nikon.
Yep. NEF
what
is
else?
Nikon.
What else? What's the Sony?
I don't remember now. I use Sony's a lot. Forget. All right. So other thing that's cool is, as sure y'all can see, I have I'm using this Logitech camera so you can just see it, but this is a iPhone Pro or 13 Pro. So there's 3 lenses. So not only can I do DNG, I can turn the flash on, but over here I can change from wide to tight.
Look at that zoom.
And then I can go to ultra wide, which is too much for any human being at this point. But if I remember properly, just so y'all know, the way that these lenses changes, I believe it is 12, 24, and 48. So this is like 12 millimeters. This is 24 millimeters.
Yeah, lens equivalent.
This is 48 lens equivalent. So that just means like this is going to look closer to a 50 millimeter that you take on your phone or your camera. There's technology back there, like I mentioned. So let's take some photos of Miles, but before we do that, we have a couple other things to go over. So we talked about our lenses. Let's just go back to our wide. We also have
ARW. Sony. Our good friends just in the chat. That's right.
Thank you.
These photo enthusiasts in the chat. I love it.
This lets you lock your exposure. This matters because let's say this is something if y'all folks have followed me for a while, you know I have my how to shoot and edit darker skin tones. That's a big thing for me, and one of the ways that you can help counter the fact that the sensor for your camera will sometimes read Miles' skin, or more importantly my skin, and read it a little bit as a little darker. It might think, oh, this is too dark, because it's reading it as 18% gray. The camera sensor in your phone, in your DSLR, and I don't know if y'all can see, I have a film camera up there. All those things are trying to get to 18% gray. So when it says like this is exposed properly, so sometimes something like my skin, or even like that screwdriver over there, if you bring it closer, you'll see that it's going to brighten it up a little bit, because what it's trying to do is make sure that black, I keep knocking Miles over, that the gray point is accurate. And because of that, sometimes it helps you to lock your exposure. It doesn't make a lot of sense in auto, which we're in now, but once we get a little further into the professional camera, you'll see why it matters. Lastly, there are built-in presets. So there's high contrast, so like you can see this difference. I will say generally I avoid photographing in the built-in presets because you can always add them after the fact. But that's just my own feeling. Feel free to do what you think is best, but I always like to make versions of edits, which we will touch on soon. So now that we've gone through auto, I'm going to pause for questions while I go to professional. Does anyone have anything they want to know?
Yeah, we do. And I think you may know this more since you probably shoot more on iPhone, but is it possible to shoot in DNG only via the Lightroom Cam app, or can you do it natively through the Apple camera? Which I know before you couldn't do it on iPhones, but I think with the new iPhones you can now. So
y'all see in the top right corner, there's this little line through it that says RAW. So how do you turn that on? I will show you. Shout out to the Apple folks who are always so sweet to me. I'm going to try my best not to show any of my information.
Here, I can go away.
Oh, no, it's okay.
So
we're already there.
So if you don't have the new iPhones, the DNG in the camera app is a great feature if you don't have that. I think the new iPhones do have that RAW feature.
Yeah, the Pro. If you go to formats, you can see you can change it to Apple Pro RAW. And also folks have complained about the HEIF a lot, the high efficiency. You can turn that to most compatible, so it goes to JPEG instead. But ProRAW and ProRes is essentially raw version of video. So then when you go back to your camera, you can go to RAW. And I like that it's turned off natively, because if you start taking a ton of photos with RAW, unless you have a ton of storage, it's going to take up more storage. I would say
eat it up.
It's 2 to 3, almost 4 times larger because it's getting so much more data. And then, like, if we go over to video, we can then turn ProRes on in a really similar fashion. And you see it even tells me the maximum record time, because even my phone doesn't have that much space. So if we go back over, this is also important. I want to put this out. If you go to photos, go to albums, you go further down, you can see you can actually search by ProRes, little video of me I took, and then RAW. So like here's a picture of lid, and you can see that in the RAW, there's all this additional color, plus this white isn't blown out. Yeah. It's easier to find stuff that way. And you can also search, we're gonna head back to Lightroom in a second, but sometimes what I would do is I take RAWs when I know I wanna get like all of the data, all the detail. Let me show you what I mean. There's one photo I'm looking for in particular. Yes, I have many, please don't judge me.
Yeah, it's also great with dynamic range. So that picture, I think you said it was Liz. As you can see, the foreground was nice and lit, but so was the background. It wasn't blown out, which older iPhones, or maybe even shot JPEG, you wouldn't have all that data for like both of the ranges.
Of course, and I can even, we're not going to do this for long, but I'm just going to show you. If I went to a quick edit, went to our exposure, you can see that I'm still getting detail in Kamau, which I wouldn't have gotten before with RAW. So you can find that natively in the app, but also, let me go back to Lightroom. That's what I was looking for. Also, if we're here, you can search for the photos you took. Let me just hop out of this for a second. Remember, we have Lightroom camera photos. It will tell you if the photos are raw or not. You can search for them later, which is super helpful. So it's very similar. You keep everything organized. Life is great. Let's get back to our camera. Camera. Okay. So now we're in professional. Now, you know, besides making a little more money, get a little glow up, what makes professional good? So here's the most important thing. I'm going to bring Miles up a little bit. You guys can see this, everything's kind of in focus, but let's pretend, you know, Paco and I have been hanging out for years, and Paco just says, you know, it's time for me to make it official. Paco proposes to me, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so special, right?
Yes, that is a great alternate universe.
I get a sweet ring. This is my ring finger. I always forget. And then I want to show it off. So y'all have all seen that photo that's like, oh my God, right? And sometimes if not done properly, the ring's kind of lost in the ether because you don't have selective focus. So one way you can do that, and this is something that I really love about the Lightroom camera, is you tap this little boy right here. It looks like a little plus inside of two things. So let me just show you real quick. Tap it again. And if you see these green lines, it shows you, for the folks that use mirrorless cameras, you already have this feature, but it shows you what's in focus. So
do you know what that's called? Fun fact. Maybe we'll let the chat decide. In the video world, it's a very specific feature where it shows you what it's being focused on.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll see if the chat, a little trivia for the chat, see if they know. Let's continue.
So you see as you move along, this is really cool because this allows you to how to focus separately than how you expose. I love my native iPhone app. I don't want to give you all the impression that I always take photos in Lightroom. I normally wait to take photos in Lightroom when something is important. Natively in the iPhone app, remember you can lock your exposure and focus once with AEAF. So if I went to this and went to select it, if I want to take this photo, I would press down and then you'd get an auto exposure, auto focus. So you see now he's in focus. You see that I can make him brighter or darker, but generally as I move, now everything is out of focus.
Yeah, very cool.
Unless things are the same distance, right? The thing that makes the Lightroom app separate is that I can both keep him in focus. Hold on.
Alessandro got it right. He is 2 for 2. It's called focus peaking.
Oh,
it's a feature that's in a lot of more the higher level prosumer cameras, but it's used a lot in external monitors to make sure your focus is right, and that's exactly what it looks like.
Quick side note for the folks, as one thing that I learned early in directing, the people. Okay, I'm gonna put this down for 1 second. Just because my face for a second popped up again. So something super interesting is sometimes on bigger sets, there will be a person whose job it is. There's a camera operator who's moving the camera, and then there's a person who I'm looking at the camera as the monitor as a director, but there's another person's job who is pulling the focus. That is a tremendously difficult job. I was not aware. I was like, that's probably easy. I could do that, you know. And then I was trying to like direct while doing it. It's impossible. Can't do it.
It's hard. Yeah, it's a whole job in itself. They usually have focus wheels, these crazy focus wheels that go in the teeth of these like tens of $1,000 lenses. And then their job is just to manually focus the shot while the camera operator is actually moving the camera. So crazy things in the world of video production.
I will pull that up. Puck, if you remind me, I will either pull up some photos of that for tomorrow for folks to see, or I'll try to find them today. But I do like to give those gems because there's constantly things that like, you know, we don't get access to all the time. So it's good to learn them here. Okay, so we're here, and what I was trying to say is, instead of locking your auto exposure, auto focus at once, let's say that I'm like, I want Miles to look terrifying. Let me bring this exposure all the way down. It looks like he's waiting in a dark alley for somebody, right? And then that's when you lock your exposure. How cool that is. Now I can have my focus and my exposure be 2 different things. Or maybe I want to have Miles look kind of like Book of Eli, the Denzel movie. He's really bright and kind of futuristic, right? And I know that these aren't the world's greatest photos, but I'm sorry I don't have any professional models in here waiting for us. But I will say, the folks that know me, I take a lot of photos with my phone. And I really feel confident and comfortable with my phone, just because the best camera you have is the one that you have available to you. And the thing that makes this pro camera really special is the fact that you can separate your focus from your exposure, which then allows you to really play more. And then once you get the exposure you like, you can lock it. And then why locking it is important is you can't tap anything. So even if you're moving around, you're not worried that like I'm moving to take a photo and then I accidentally move my exposure. Now, I'm sure you know that this exposure compensation isn't the only thing you can do in the app. There's other buttons. So you can change your shutter speed. So let's say, you know, I'm trying to go surfing and I want to get a photo. You can have a little bit more control by changing your shutter speed. Your ISO, the shutter, you know what? This will explain it better. I always forget. Okay, so this is the first film camera I ever had. It is a Canon AE1. On top of it, there are, I guess, Paco, let's cut back to the camera for a second. There are these dials. I don't know if you guys can see them. There are these dials.
Let me make it bigger. There we go.
Yeah, there are these dials that say like 250th, 1,000. Those are your shutter speed. And the main things that you do to take a photo are you decide the aperture, which is how much light the camera lets in. I'm going to try to show you here on this lens. You look at this lens like really close up, right? Oh, this is so hard to turn. It's so hard to turn while I got it. It's hard to turn while it's off, but essentially what you're doing is there's a hole, and if you turn your aperture, the bigger the number, the smaller the hole. The small hole is really helpful for you if you're taking photos of landscapes, but essentially what you're doing with your aperture is how much light are you letting in, right? So it's a really bright day. If you have to make sure that you don't let so much light in that it's super bright. So your aperture is how you decide how much light you let in, how big the circle is, how small. The bigger the circle, the more depth of field you get. So by depth of field, I mean the same focus beacon we just used. The way you control that normally in a film camera, DSLR, mirrorless camera is by altering your aperture. So that's when people say like, I want a good camera. So like this Logitech camera I'm using, it has everything in frame, but you can see that I'm a little bit more in focus. That's how you decide that with the film camera. Then if you the next thing up is shutter speed. And the reason why I wanted to bring this down is I'm going to change my shutter speed to, this is 1,000th of a second. Oh, hold on. Oh no, are we mad? What are you mad about? Sometimes they like
camera doesn't. That camera is camera shy.
My buddy's getting a little iffy on me. Essentially, the faster the shutter, the faster the photo's taken. But if you slow a shutter down, oh, I have film in there, lols. It's fine. I guess not. There's something, maybe the battery's dead. But essentially, the faster the shutter speed, the more motion you can capture. But remember that if we decide how much light we let in by making the circle bigger or smaller, how fast the shutter opens and closes also decides that. So the slower the shutter speed, so 60th of a second, 100th of a second, obviously lets in more light than 1,000. So if you want to take pictures of like Usain Bolt sprinting, you need 1,000th of a second. So you need a lot of light. And you're basically balancing how big your aperture is and how quickly or how long you want your shutter to be open. So those are your two main things. And if we switch back to the phone, you'll see that shutter speed gives me the option of changing this shutter. Now, this doesn't matter here because Miles is standing still. But, you know, if I was photographing as actual Spider-Man like Peter Parker would, then you would go ahead and take, basically what you're trying to do is you're taking photos of motion, then you want to up your shutter speed or bring it down. So like sometimes you want to get a long exposure, you can go all the way down to like this really short number. But something to keep in mind, the lower the number, the more camera shake you might get. So just be careful if you start to go below, about 1/50th of a second. The old adage is, this is probably a little bit deep for y'all, but you know I love little tips. The old adage is that anything under a 60th, you need to brace yourself. So to brace yourself, you want to stand like a tripod. Don't put both your feet right next to each other, but one in front, one in back, and bring your shoulders up close to your body. And then you hold your breath and take a photo, because without realizing it, it's kind of hard for you to see here, but we move more than we realize. And when our shutter speed's super low, you can get shake that's just from you, let alone the subject. Lastly, we have ISO, which is how sensitive the image is to light. The bigger the ISO number, the more sensitive it is to light, but the grainier it gets. This is a carryover from film. So sometimes if you're taking photos outside, you can have like ISO 100 or 64 or 200, and you get these like really crisp images that are not, that aren't grainy at all. But sometimes concert photography, you notice they'll be like really grainy. It's because you're trying to have photos that are sensitive to light as possible, and that ends up bringing the quality of the pixels or the image down if it's on film. So that's basically what you can change, all this stuff. You can also hit reset and go right back to what you had originally. Obviously, you can still change how much you can change your focal length. And to do that, once again, you tap this T, but let's get Miles back in focus for us.
Someone in the chat is saying 1/60th of a second is considered slow. I guess it depends on the context, right? Like if you have a super wide lens, like a 14mm lens, 1/60th, probably get away shooting handheld, especially if that lens has image stabilizer.
Yeah, and I will talk about this soon, but I just know you guys are overwhelmed, like probably a lot of things. So remember, there's also a couple of things. There's HDR mode, which is pretty cool. It takes a series of photos, HDR. And you notice that it defaults in a DNG because it takes a series of DNGs. It takes the brightest, the medium, and the darkest edit, and then layers everything on top of each other. So if a DNG photo, you'd see my Gator Cup be like, you basically get a photo, the Gator Cup is so bright, the Synology is so dark, and Miles is this way, and he's right in the middle. The HDR would layer everything so everything's exposed as well as it can be.
I
Then
have a
we have,
bone to pick with you about that Gator Cup, by the way. Are
oh
you
wow, where'd you go to
did you
school?
go to UF? I went
I
to
did.
FSU.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's crazy. All right, so
I'm
those who may
sorry.
not know, the Florida schools, UF and FSU are just rivals, right? So
Mm.
Florida State University and University of Florida. And I did not know Andre went to UF. That's awesome. We didn't go to school that far from each other. I went to FSU, which is in Tallahassee. So,
Oh, nice. How old are you?
okay. 32.
Okay, so we were in school around the same time. That's fun.
Okay. What year did you graduate?
2000, and I should have just asked you that instead of asking how old you are. I'm sorry. I
Yeah, I was
graduated
like,
in
great. Now everybody knows my age. Thanks, man. Nah, I don't
2013.
care. Yeah, so we had some overlap. That's very cool. Fellow Floridian, look at that.
Oh yeah, shout out, dude. What was I gonna say? We both had some rough football years. I'm proud of us for
We
keeping
did, yeah,
keeping it
yeah. I
going.
was pre Jameis Winston, and without going too off the rails here, every single home game I attended, we lost, and then I graduated, and then Jameis Winston came, and then we won a championship. So some say I was the FSU omen. Who knows?
Hey man, I never went to
Who
those
knows?
Florida State Thanksgiving Day games because I'm like, I don't care about football this one. You want me to drive back to school to watch a football game?
Yeah.
Why? So I had to be like, what
Nah.
are we doing? This is football. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have long exposure and we have depth capture. So this depth capture is important. This is for the folks who love to who are like, hey, how do I get portrait mode um on Lightroom Mobile? This is how depth capture. So depth capture allows you to lock your focus by tapping on something. So we can even tap on me back, like my cup mug back there, and you can see that Miles is out of focus, but the Gator mug's in focus. But if Paco and I switch places, he wouldn't want to see that. So he would go ahead and put Miles back in focus with black that Gator mug, and then take the photo. And then you can still change your exposure compensation. So like I said, with this depth capture, you can decide, and this is nice. You get a little contour light on his face. Look at this little edge. It's beautiful. The little jiggle too. But depth capture allows you to photograph like you're in portrait mode in the Lightroom camera, and then you can lock your exposure and separate what you focus on and what you expose for. So before I close the Lightroom mobile experience, does anyone have any questions? Oh, I see in my Discord, Shanitra said, "Learning so much. Who knew Lightroom mobile has all this power? I definitely need to start using this more." Girl, do what you can. You know what I'm saying? Everything is always getting better, and you're a talented artist, so no pressure. Just do what you can, and the rest will follow.
The rest will follow. Very good stuff. Well, thank you for that in-depth demonstration of Lightroom Mobile.
Yeah, we got anything else that I should any questions anyone has before I unplug my phone for a minute?
No questions, plenty of comments, but no specific questions right now. So yeah, if we want to jump into Lightroom on desktop, I said let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, so I'm gonna.
Okay, so yeah, share that screen and I'll switch
don't
over
worry.
there with you.
I mentioned Discord, and it's important for me to just shout this out. I was not a Discord believer for a long time, but shout out to the folks here that are in my Discord channel. They're very lovely folks. It's called Good Questions with Andre. Every day on Discord, we have like a little question that's like, yesterday we had like, what's our worst date story? Woo, that was hard to watch. But
that's awesome.
The whole point of it is the daily questions. It's encouraging you to ask questions. So we, as visual artists, as creative professionals, can just be there to ask each other questions. Last week, actually, I had a new person come in and ask me about a university they went to, using their images in a way that they didn't previously understand, and what's the best way for them to get paid for that now and then in the future. And so if you're looking for a community like that, I believe Paco has a link. He'll drop it in the chat, but I would love if any of you would choose to join. And if anyone
is it the Discord link that you gave me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll drop that in now.
And if anyone is watching and is in the Discord, please feel free to drop a positive word. But now we are like in it, right? We are in Lightroom. Life is good. We got some pictures of my friend Melanie in here. Right before I took this photo, we have this joke where every time we're photographing, someone will stop us in the street. And I was taking some photos for an organization I work with called To Write Love in Our Arms. They are an anti-suicide organization. And yes, I understand that all of us are anti-suicide, but their goal is to, give resources to folks when they need it, whether that's counseling, whatever folks need to make sure that they are cared for in a moment of crisis. So I work with them often, and sometimes they send me clothes that I take photos of. Shout out to Laura for joining Discord. I appreciate that. And so with that, I wanted to show you some photos that I took with this, and then I wanted to discuss this idea with y'all called recommended presets.
All
This is something
right.
that's new with Lightroom, and I think it's something that's really helpful because generally folks open Lightroom and you know, we've just on mobile, and just to show y'all the same stuff we saw on desktop, or actually, Paco, can we go back to the phone for a second? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no
I
worries. No need to
forgot to
apologize,
show
man.
y'all.
It's just click and go on my end.
Sorry
Just switch
about
on over to
that.
your end, and then I'll get back.
So hold phone, everybody. So I just wanted to show everybody, because I brought this up and I think folks don't believe me. So let me pick a set of photos. Let's go to 2021. Let's go to the same photos. So we'll go to right, left, and arm sweatsuits. You'll see that the same photos that we saw on the desktop are right here. Let's look at this photo of Melanie. Remember we said tap to press to hold. You can see the before and the after.
Very cool.
Also, you'll see down here, there's masking, healing, cropping, presets. There's also auto, light, and just so you can see, because we're gonna go over this, these are all the same that we're gonna see on mobile, on tablet, and on desktop. I'll do some tablet stuff tomorrow, so y'all can believe me when I tell you. We have optics, geometry, most things that you have available. Most things you have are available across all the Lightroom ecosystem, because it understands, or Lightroom, the folks at Lightroom understand that people are constantly on the go. And so just so you know, the one thing that I'll do is I'll take photos, I'll import them, you know, SD card, CF card. Quick little side note for the folks, people ask me what to get. There are lots of brands, but the thing you want to make sure is that the write speed of your cards is high enough. Why? Because if you're photographing in RAW, like we're talking about DNG, or you're taking, let's say you photograph sports, let's say your sister is like a great high school soccer athlete. You want to take some RAW photos because it's already dark on the field at night. You know, high schools aren't always the brightest things. And so you photograph these in RAW, but you're trying to take a photo of her game-winning goal, right? If you don't have it fast enough, you're going to take 3 or 4 photos and your camera's going to give, and Paco's seen this, that little circle that's like, hold on, we're writing. Or let alone, the first thing I ever directed, I made a music video, and we're supposed to use CFast cards, but we made a mistake and got CF cards. So we ended up only having 2 CFast cards and trying to use SD cards, but the SD cards I had at that point were too slow. So we could film for about 45 seconds and then it would have to stop. So just a shout out, make sure that when you are buying cards, the folks at Lexar, the folks at SanDisk, there are cards that are good with write speed and aren't super expensive. Wait till Black Friday. I personally like CF cards over SD because I've broken many SD cards and they're easier to lose. The CF cards are kind of little hefty boys like me. They're a little easier to find, and then just keep them stored in a safe place. So back over to this. The things important to point out that I wanted to say one last thing on is here. One thing we're going to touch on, I believe tomorrow. Let me check my run a show before I start lying. Yeah, we're going to talk about versions tomorrow. And versions is great because you can see here that it'll show you that I opened here's the original photo as well as the current, and then all the times I opened it. And versions will say and save and say, oh, you opened it on your phone and then on your desktop. So here's the phone edit and here's the desktop edit. So you can keep everything super organized. So with that in mind, let's get to the desktop. I just wanted you to know that it's no cap when I say that Lightroom Mobile is built from the ground up to work well with Lightroom in general.
Agreed.
Sorry that my neighbor is being loud. Also, follow me on Instagram at Aundre.
At Aundre, there he is.
At Aundre, I have other tutorials that sit on my YouTube, and that's also at Aundre. If you're a Twitter person, I like to joke about Twitter being my Finsta at Aundre Larrow, and my goal this year is to hit 10K followers. And if anyone works at Twitter, please verify me. But this is not that time. Let's get over and talk about these edits. So let's just get a quick little cursory tour of Lightroom edits just to make sure that we don't run out of time, and we want to hit everything that's important to us today. So for you to understand why recommended presets are important, let's just pick this photo of Melanie. And we want to see the original photo. So let's just go to versions real quick. Oh, okay. Good. I picked a photo that wasn't edited. Great. So we have this original photo of Melanie. Let's put versions away for a minute. I'm gonna give you a quick Lightroom tour, and then we're gonna keep it moving. So first, we have some things up here. So Paco, I meant to ask you this. How can I zoom on this? I thought I feel like I used to be able to do that, and now if
I think with Macs, you actually need a plugin to do it. I think there is a way to do it in the Mac OS, but let me investigate that.
Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. No worries.
You keep going. I felt like I'm gonna play around with my Mac. If it's easy to do, I'll just interrupt you and we'll do it real quick. If not,
I used to be able to zoom, and now like in the last like 2-3 months, like I was trying to teach something last week to Black Women in Photograph. If anyone in here is a Black woman and is a photographer, join Black Women in Photograph. It is led by my friend Polly. It's an amazing organization that provides professional development, helps folks. And last week we did a Lightroom tutorial, and I was trying to zoom in because y'all can see these are kind of small, and it didn't work. So we're gonna ignore the profiles and presets for a minute. And we're gonna go straight into edits. Go
to System Preferences. I don't know if it'll translate to the live stream, but we'll find out. So do your system preferences. It's just a 2-click thing.
Yeah.
If it's in another window, just bring it up. Okay, and then go to accessibility. So next to users and groups, go to zoom. And then, all right, where it says use scroll gesture, no, uncheck that one. Where it says use scroll gesture with modifier keys to zoom, click on that one. Okay, now you're gonna hit control and then scroll up like you're zooming in, either on the trackpad or on a zoom.
Okay.
So hit control.
Oh.
And then, is it working for you?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not translating on the live stream, unfortunately. Oh well, we tried.
It's not?
This happened before. That's why I think you need the plugin, and then it does relay to live streams. But
what a bummer.
Unfortunately, it doesn't do it. We tried, people. We tried.
I'm sorry, everybody. We really did try. Shout out to Paco. All right, getting back to it.
Let's get back to it.
Shout out to Jameis Winston. Hope he's doing all right.
Jameis Winston.
So, old crab legs. So,
old crab legs.
Let's do a quick
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to. That's funny.
Over on the right, we have exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. So, what does that mean? This is like just to set up, we have about an hour left. The reason I'm doing this is we're going to be speaking about how to use recommended presets and how to make your own presets. But to do that, you need a foundation to understand what exactly you're doing. So we're going to do a quick sprint through this, and we'll also revisit it tomorrow. But start quickly. Exposure makes every pixel darker or lighter, right? And it's kind of a dumb tool in that, like, let's say it's a hammer, and sometimes you don't need a hammer, you need a scalpel. So let's say I want this picture to be brighter, but now as I bring my exposure up, look at how the left side of Melanie's face is getting so bright. We're losing that detail. So let's say I want this to be brighter. Instead of just bringing my whole exposure up, I might say, I actually just want this side of her face to be brighter. And I know that highlights are the brightest part of the image. Shadows are the darkest part of the image. And so if I want to make my shadows, this darker part, brighter, I just want to slide and bring my shadows up. And you see how it's not really impacting this right side of her face as much, right? And let's say that I think my highlights are too bright. I can come down on one side or go up on another side. Thing to remember about shadows: negative makes the shadows darker, positive makes them brighter. Same thing for highlights: darker, brighter. I think sometimes the inverse is funny because you'll be like, oh, positive shadows, that must be more shadows. No. And then whites and blacks are highlights are the brighter, like the entire range of the brighter part of the image. The whites are the brightest part of the image. So what does that mean? If we're taking this, that means like my shirt right here. Shout out to this Bird Collective. It's a beautiful shirt. It's all about solidarity. Shout out to these guys.
Nice. I like it.
But this really bright part, like the highlights for this image for me would be the top of my jean jacket, this part of my shirt. But the white would be this part of the shirt, or these kicks right here. Okay. Versus the darkest parts, the shadows would be my hair. It would be this rubber plant that I love very much. It would be my Iron and Wine poster back there. So that's what that means. So that's first and foremost something to remember. Second, we have curves. Curves are very confusing for folks to think about, but let me just give you a quick little thing. The top right corner of the curve is the brightest part, the brightest pixels, and the bottom left is your darkest. So sometimes what I do is these little points at the ends, this bottom left one is your black point. So you can change it here or change it by moving your blacks in either direction. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll bring my black point up a little just to make the image a little flatter. and you'll see, oh, sorry about that. You'll see the before and after. I mentioned earlier that we're going to talk about eyeballs, and this is what I meant. You know how before I showed y'all that you can press and hold to see the before and after? One thing that's really cool about Lightroom is there's this little eyeball. I know you guys can't see it because I need to learn how to zoom, but if you press and hold it, it'll just show you the difference in that single edit you made. So you could be like really mystical, really pointed, really focused. And so tap it this way. So we'll see we made it a little flatter, which I like. And it also helps the super bright spot. Then everything in the middle of your midtone. So that's like her yellow shirt. These pants are in the shadows. It's the grays, so like this gray part, all this stuff. So, you know, one way that you can like change the color of your image is you can go through your curves and be like, I want to go to this red cyan. I want to make my highlights a little bluer, or my highlights a little redder. Like I said, this top corner is your highlights. Or I want to make my shadows a little bluer, or my shadows a little redder. This can be confusing for folks because as you move the curve, it will react with itself. So there can be a lot going on. And so if you find that to be stressful, instead of doing curves, we can do other things. So
yeah, and I do want to say previous versions of Lightroom didn't, you see how they're kind of color coded? Like if you pull the curve up to the red, it gets redder, down, it gets greener. That didn't used to be a thing before. So it'd be pretty, if you didn't know the color wheel and what affects what out of memory, you weren't really sure what you were affecting, but now it tells you. It's like, if you want to go more red, bring it up. If you want to go more greenish blue, bring it down. So it's a really cool feature that I like about the newer version.
Shout out to my guy. My man knows everything. We don't talk about Paco being the GOAT enough. I think we should. I'm gonna bring a goat tomorrow. I don't have a goat, but I did have this Appa. If anybody is a big, this is gonna be another photo thing we took. Do you not know what Appa is?
I don't think so.
Bro, are you joking? Oh my gosh.
What is it?
If anyone knows what this is from, please comment in the chat.
Star Wars? I feel like, is it Star Wars? Or am I crazy?
Star Wars, bro. Florida State has failed you. I'm just kidding. All right, so.
Oh, the UFFSU rivalry. Here we go, folks. This is where it started.
This is where it started.
This is where it's next thing you know.
No, man, Tallahassee's cool. And honestly, I find the gold garnet to be like a really nice color palette. Orange and blue is fine, but it can be very aggro if you do it incorrectly, as it can be there. Tell me you never put, like, when they cut to Florida State, they're the people that had like the body glitter on. You didn't
Those guys, yeah. There's always two people that you always got a camera with. It's the garnet and gold guys, and they're generational. So after they graduate, somebody else takes over. But oh yeah, those guys were game celebrities.
Look at this. I don't care about
the chat hasn't. I'm getting crucified here. It's Avatar.
Appa.
Come on, Paco.
Appa.
Yip, yip.
Yeah, bro. All right. So
yip.
Appa was there in case we needed another thing, but we got past that. So we're talking about color theory because Paco's a genius and recommended that to us. So let's just actually take a quick sojourn down to color grading. So color grading is recently added, but Paco is talking about the color wheel. And the cool thing about color grading is you can get some of the stuff you want to do in curves, but you can see all the colors next to each other and move around them more easily. We'll get back to this, but I just wanted to show you there have been a little bit easier, more native ways to do it. And color grading is a good way to do it. So getting this edit in. So we looked at curves, we're a little overwhelmed, but let's go to color. So first and foremost, I think folks should understand what white balance is. Paco, would you like to tell the folks what white balance is? Since I should make this a whole monologue for just me.
Yes, it is a tricky thing that you may or may not get right in camera, so I just put an auto. But no, if you're shooting raw, and this is what I do. If I'm shooting raw on my Canon, I usually go auto, because if it's something that you don't, and it doesn't really matter if you're shooting raw anyway, because you can correct it, right? So the white point changes depending on what the white balance is. That can range anywhere between like 1800 Kelvin to 6500. You're pretty much going warmer or cooler, and then the tint is a whole different ball game. But if your camera looks weird, your photo looks weird off the bat, try the white balance, because more or less I can make it look more natural, right? So if the blues are too blue, the reds are too red, or the oranges are too orange, try the white balance. And I do know Lightroom has a very cool feature that says auto, which will take a guess at what it thinks the right white balance is. It may or may not get it, but that's a good starting point. And like I said, if your camera or your photo looks off, maybe because you got the white balance off to begin with in camera, change that, and I'll guarantee most of the time it's going to look a lot more natural.
Paco, could you cut to my face for a second, please?
Sure can.
So here's an example of white balance, folks. I am working with a light that allows me to do that. So look at my face. You see how all of a sudden it got a little orange, right? Here, let me turn this up so you can see how like aggro orange this just got, right? And this is at blue, right? So white balance allows you to identify the color temperature of the light. This camera I'm using knows how to do that, but if you don't have your white balance on auto and you have it set for cloudy, but you're inside, you're going to have something that looks green or pink. And not to fret, if you photograph it in RAW, so CR2, ARC, NEF, DNG, you can then change it with ease. So if we cut back, I just wanted y'all to see, I'm going to move this back to what it was at because that was too much.
You're using your key. Oh, that's so cool. I was wondering how you're changing that white balance. He's using the light. You can actually change the Kelvin. Very cool.
Yep. And when I'm on the go, I use, there's a Logitech Lightroom light I use that goes right on top of my laptop. So I have it all the time. So at any point, I can make myself look amazing or crazy.
Right.
So back into it. So what that means is, let's say, let me just move this so you guys can see. So let's say it looked like this. And you're like, oh my God, she looks like she's lost in, I don't know, some
Mars.
sort of really just horrible.
Mars, or it's that, it's like whenever you see Hollywood depict Mexico, it's like got that filter. Like the Mexico City filter. That's funny. I can say that because I'm Mexican. So
hey, and we love the Mexican Jamaican alliance is formed right now.
It's coming. It's coming. Besides the FSU UF thing, we can work through our differences.
We can still work through those, man.
We can still
went
work
to college.
through it.
I'm happy we went to college. It's better than not going to college. So
I did too. I enjoyed FSU for sure.
So essentially, look, let's say that I took this and it looked like this out of camera. I can hit this eyedropper tool. Hey, buddy. Sorry. Tap this eyedropper tool, and then I can go select a part of the image that I know to be white, and it will choose an white balance for me based on what I identify as white, which is pretty cool. So you can't do things that are like have no detail. Like if I go to the sky, it's not going to work because this is just all white, but this has detail in it enough that you can see little lines in it, and choosing what you identify as white will alter it. So if instead I say, I think these pants are white, it's gonna do different things, right? If I think this jacket's or this pullover is supposed to be white, then it's gonna make everything very blue. But using your eyedropper tool can allow you, in case you don't get it right, to go from there. But if you want to do it your own way, you can also click white balance, go through daylight, cloudy. So just so y'all see, there's like, I'm outside, but let's say if you change it to tungsten, you see how all of these things are choosing a color temperature. What your camera's trying to do is your camera's trying to identify what is white and then grade the colors from there. But you can always alter it. So first we have our color temperature, which can make warmer, which you already saw, or cooler, just like I showed you with the light. We have our tint, which is also super helpful. I personally find, although we can get something perfectly at white, photos are a little bit pinker and a little bit yellow. Folks really enjoy that. It's like just a little bit warmer, a little bit more inviting. Vibrance and saturation are very similar to exposure and highlights and shadows. So what I mean by that is saturation makes everything so desaturated means all the color's gone. And then look at this. Oh God, give me stroke.
Too much saturation. Hey, and I gotta admit, at least when I first started in the video photo world, I'm like,
oh, of course,
everything needs color, and you just slide it to the max. You're like, that looks great. And of course now you're like, oh man, you got to be careful with those saturation sliders.
Absolutely, be super
you can't
careful.
Overdo it.
Be super careful, because like what you're trying to do is you're trying to just make the photo more inviting. Like as a photographer, there's a Roland Barthes quote from Cameron Lucida that essentially says our responsibility is to capture reality. We don't always have to do that, but just be careful. That's what I'll say. And Vibrance can help you, because Vibrance is a little bit smarter. It will say in this photo, what are the more muted colors? And so let's say this is saturation at 66. Ugh. Here, let me just show you a little bigger so you can see. Oh God. We got Melanie out here looking crazy. This is one of my homies. I think she's very beautiful. But let's see even Vibrance at 66. You see, it's not as overpowering.
It tones it down.
It's identifying the image or the parts of the image, the colors that aren't as bright, and then making sure that those aren't as saturated. And then you edit from those. Excuse me. Yeah. Vibrance is identifying the colors that aren't as saturated, and then increasing the saturation of those colors versus the entire image, which makes a really nice edit.
Right. I rarely touch saturation. It's usually Vibrance. I'm team Vibrance. We do have this comment. It says, big up Jamaican Mexican alliance. It's happening.
Who said that?
That's our friend Jorge
hey.
George, depending on how you pronounce it.
Yeah, Jorge, can you
Yeah.
let us know if it's George or Jorge? We just
Yeah,
want to make sure we're
let me
saying
know
your
if
name
I'm
right by name.
phonetically saying it right. I want to make sure I say your name right. So, do you go by George or Jorge?
And then also, folks, if you have questions, let us know. This is all building up to presets. We're getting there. All right. So
We'll get
one of
there,
my favorite
folks.
little tools is the color mix tool. So let's zoom back in on this, and we're going to see this sweet line of tools. So we're going to see color mix is great. It allows you to isolate a color and isolate the edit. So red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, and magenta. Now, why does this matter? Because with each color, you have the ability to change three things: the hue, the saturation, and the luminance. Now, the hue is kind of hard to describe, actually. It's where the color sits in the color wheel. So, like I said, these are all in order, but think of them instead of a line as a circle. So if I slide my hue on my red this way, you can see that her red bandana is going from red to closer to magenta, which is at the end of this line, but all in one circle. If you go down to color grading, you can see the same thing. Red and magenta are next to each other. And then you see if I start to go to the right, and you're going to see an image that you're going to see that the orange, or excuse me, you're going to see that the red is becoming more orange. So sometimes that can be helpful, especially with skin tone. If there is, a piece of something reflecting onto someone's skin to look a little too red, you can just kind of slide it and just make it a little bit more orange or a little bit pink. The second thing I want to bring up is saturation. So this is what we're used to. We can make our red more saturated, not saturated at all. But I think the thing that folks sleep on too often is our luminance. And our luminance, what that does is it alters how bright that color is. So look at this. If I make this darker, you see how this red is kind of getting just a little darker, a little more burnt, closer to brown, to a little bit brighter, a little more inviting. It's a kind of a nice way to use the tool. Sometimes I use the main skin tone colors I use are red, yellow, and orange. To alter skin tone and color mix, but you can also use it to, like, let's say, oh, sorry about that. Also, I'm laughing.
Luminance.
So
I think, yeah. Don't sleep on luminance. I love that you called that out because if you know how to use it and you target those colors, I mean, you can almost call it like the make it pop slider, right? Like it really does make that color more visible and more vibrant. So I use that one a lot too.
big fan. I'm laughing because my neighbor's been quiet all day. So now he's like, play music super loud while you're live streaming.
Yeah, you can hear a little bit. I got some tunes in the background though that I can drown it on, so it's all good.
Listen, man, my man is, just so you know, he's not even like in front of. He's across the street, up the block. That's how loud this is.
Oh, he's not even your like next wall.
Oh no, I worry
like
for my man's hearing. He will be deaf soon. I'm very concerned. All right, so let's talk about another example. Let's talk about not skin, but like let's say we think this green's distracting for some reason, right? Let's go to green in the color mix, and let's bring that saturation all the way down. Let's bring that luminance all the way up. So you can see how this is getting super dark, super bright, super desaturated. There's just a good way, like color mix is a great way for you to add finishing touches and for you to make edits that work for what you want. So let's say that we really want to make sure that we're like highlighting this sweater. So let's bring our saturation up a little bit. Let's bring our luminance down a little bit. So you see how it's getting that golden glow now. So like, hold on, let me hold this. Look at how the sweater is different.
Ooh,
show you guys again.
Very cool.
It's almost like I planned this, right? Works through.
It's like you know what you're doing.
Oh. So then as we go down, we can do color grading. So remember earlier we talked about highlights and shadows. There's also midtones. I'm going to go ahead and where is the histogram? Is it not up here anymore? Or did I forget where it was?
Good question.
Hold on. I'm sure my boy is somewhere available to me.
In the meantime, though, while you look for that, our man Jorge did get back to us. He says, "Soy panameño, American in Brooklyn, same place." So you pronounce it Jorge.
Good to know.
¿Hablas español?
Oh, I mean, do I speak Spanish or does Jorge speak Spanish?
No, Jorge. That was more rhetorical.
Okay. My Spanish is fine. If I was in a pinch, Spanish could be spoken. I couldn't give this tutorial in Spanish, though.
Yeah.
It's funny. I took a lot of Spanish in high school, and so I can still read stuff. Like if I need to like read something, 70,
you can get by.
40 to 60% comprehension. Very helpful. All right, so getting into it. Basically, remember we talked about Miles? So we talked about Miles being midtones. Then we talked about maybe his eyebrows being the shadows, and then his kicks being highlights. Essentially what we're trying to do is by using the color grading tool, we can say, let's like add like the tint that we want. I think this is besides like having a good camera and having a depth of field, this is the thing folks want the most. So what they want to do is they want to, give like a specific color edit. And we can talk about how we like to do this, but for me, I think I don't go midtones first. Actually, I like to start with shadows. And the cool thing about color grading is essentially what you're doing is like at any point you can click on the circle, right? The further the circle is from the center, the more saturated the color is. But there's like a kind of fun, like for example, this like light orange, it gives you this like kind of aged feel. So let's keep it there for our shadows. And then for our highlights, I'm going to do a little bit of a different. I chose like a little bit of a purple for our highlights. So like purple and yellow are Lakers colors, but if you know this, a lot of teams use complementary colors. And so sometimes when I'm color grading, I'll just do complementary colors together. So like obviously doubling down on the green or the yellow looks bad, but going on this purple, there's like a nice little like, I just like how this little soft bit of yellow, purple on the highlights like sits under skin. And then I'd leave the midtones, but like we can turn off, like once again, by just holding this eye, we can see, oh, well, how do the highlights actually look? Oh, and like, I wonder how the purple looks. Like you have the ability with color grading to like really get to what I think most folks want, which after they get contrast is they want to establish and maintain color. So I'm going to touch the rest of these, but I want to get directly into recommended edits now, or recommended presets. So we skipped up here before. I think it's important to point out there's profiles and presets. Profiles, Adobe gives you like some really quick ways for you to edit your images based on color that they've established. The difference between a preset and a profile is if you go to presets, and so you may not be able to see this here, but you can see this if you look at it on your phone or on your desktop or your tablet. But if I like start to linger over any specific edit, you'll see that the sliders in Lightroom are changing because using profiles allows you, using presets allows you to see the edits in real time. It's very similar to what we were doing earlier when we were talking about the Discover files. By hovering over, we can be like, oh, okay, this is an edit. I like this edit. And by choosing, let's choose FT08, futuristic. I believe my friend Toby Shinobi made these. You can see that it moves.
Shout out to Toby Shinobi. He's been on the show before.
GOAT.
Really cool guy. Yeah.
Toby's great. Sorry, I keep like lingering outside of the frame. But essentially what's going on is like these presets let you see what is happening with the sliders. Instead, if you go to profile, what profile does is profile like sets color for you. And then you can't alter it other than the intensity by going to amount. So just something to keep in mind. They serve different purposes. I think if I'm making a quick edit, I like profile, but if I want to be really minute, I use presets. But something that I'm not sure if y'all knew, they have this cool thing with Adobe Sensei that looks at the way that you've edited your photos and it recommends presets to you based on the image. So right now it's saying analyzing photos, so it's like, doing all that stuff.
This is a new feature too that they came out, I think, during Max in October last year.
Yep. So
make sure you're on the latest version of Lightroom to see this very cool feature.
You see that it's hovering and giving me different edits based on how I edit and based on like what they see in the image. So you'll see that you can also go to subtle edits. And like this can help you because once again, as you hover, you'll see how the sliders are moving. So now maybe not this time, but in a month when you're editing, you'll say, okay, I like this photo. It looks kind of like what I took a month or two ago. How can I make sure that it looks, how can I get an edit closer to that one? Well, I know in that last one, it moved the shadow slider. So let me start with the shadow slider and let me go from there. The cool thing I think about how they've constructed this version of Lightroom is it allows you to see edits in real time and then allows you to apply that to your knowledge. And through versions, which we're gonna go over tomorrow, you can then really get minute with it and say, okay, like I like this, let me try this. Or by turning off that eye, you can get an understanding of like what exactly the edits are doing. So you have more control and also a better understanding. Remember we talked about not only the what, but what is your why, right? So for me, I think this edit's a little aggro. So let's go to
When you say
Like, let's say
aggro, what does that mean?
aggro
What
means
makes
aggressive.
it aggro for you? No, I understand that, but what is making this photo aggro for you?
Sorry, where was it? This edit's too contrasty. It feels like I'm trying to like,
Okay,
if you were a
that is
basketball
aggro.
fan,
I agree.
there's a photo that Kawhi Leonard posted of the last thing on his Instagram is him going to the White House and meeting Obama, and the photo is like the most deep fried photo I've ever. It's offensive to me, um, and so it's
Was
kind
it
of
like
like
too
that.
much HDR
Yeah,
contrasty or
super
what?
HDR.
Okay, I know that look. I'm very anti that look. I do shoot HDR, but you gotta know what a fine balance is, right? You can't do it too much, or you slide it all the way to the right. But I get it.
So we have this. Then the one cool thing is you hit these three dots, you can see who made the preset, and you can even go to their profile or you can follow them. So always
Very
give
cool.
folks credit when they help you. But another cool feature of the recommended presets, because they'll give you the scan, but let's say we go to subtle, I can also go to more like this, and then it's gonna give me edits similar. So now you start to get really minute in the changes, right? Starting to see more things that are closer in line with what I want. And you can keep hitting more like this to get more organized. You can also hit view more and it'll populate more, but essentially it's giving you all these presets that folks make, and it's giving you access to those folks. So like, let's say you find a preset that I like. Shout out to Nathan Munson, like his work. I can save his presets, or I can save it as a version. So a version of the edit, look at it again later and make my decision. I can also follow him here and also all over the internet. Try to make sure that if there's someone you like that's helping you, give them that love. A lot of folks make things out of the goodness of their heart, for the love of the community, for the love of the game. And so the least you can do is follow them, share their stuff. I know we already shared it, but if you once again want to follow me, my Instagram is @Aundre, as is my YouTube. I'm going to be relaunching YouTube soon, maybe even a Patreon. I also have a lovely Discord that we're working very hard to keep excitable for folks to ask questions and learn from each other, and then a Twitter for me to just make jokes. So if any of those things appeal to you, I'll give you Paco's personal mailing address and he will mail you links to my
send me just paper links to my address, just little slips with actual paper links.
So this is really helpful, because the thing I want you to understand is, like, so normally presets, you have premium, you have yours. So premium is if you pay for a CC subscription, and I will be giving one away in a little bit. And you get a year of Creative Cloud, but you also have yours. So I have presets from Maston Lab that I paid for. I have presets from Visco that I paid for. It's important that if you understand, if you make a preset, we can talk about selling them tomorrow. The best way is you can just create a preset, or after the fact, folks can import presets that you made, that you can send them, sell them, etc. But in here I have like a ton of stuff. I have like presets I tried with different skin tones, different people, basics. I have Greg Noir's Black and White Ninja Pack. I have Sam Harine's Cinema Pack, right? But recommended is interesting because it gives you a whole access to new presets you haven't used, and it gives you like basic photography terminology for you to understand what it's trying to do. So this is the cool set, not cool like High School Musical cool like not warm, right? So then if we go to the warm side, like once again, your preset can be a nice base where you want to go. So let's pick a photo. Like, let's say that I really like this. No, I don't like that much. I like this photo, but I think it might be too green. So I can go back and shout out to Crater. Thanks for joining the Discord. I can use my eyedropper tool, which we discussed before. I can select this that I know to be white. And now it's just a little bit more color accurate. Your presets, the recommended ones are the ones you choose, the ones you download. All of those can be used by you to make your edit process easier. And what recommended is doing is it's saying, hey, we know how you edit. We know what images you have. Here's some things that I think will make your edit easier. I want to say this, you're not a bad person for using presets, whether it's someone else's or ones that you make for yourself. Life is hard and long, and whatever you can use to make it shorter and easier for yourself is ideal. Keep that in mind.
It's a great way to look at it. I like that.
Anything you want to add about presets, Paco, before I continue?
No, I mean, I think they're great. I mean, when I first started photography, I was all about the presets. You see a look and you're like, I want to imitate that look, and there's presets for that, right? Like Visco was big for me when I was first starting out. And, I did it, and, you could call it a one-stop shop. For me personally, I think once I understand the app a little better and I understand the color behind it and what the presets are actually doing, then I like to sort of do my own take on that, right? Like I like presets as a great starting line, like a great sort of first foot forward, a great jump start to get into the look that you're going for. And they're great learning opportunities and a great source of inspiration as well. Huge source of inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Like you have access to the work of people around the world, right?
Yeah, that's big. Community.
The sun is different. The sun's funny, but the sun is different here in New York than it is in California. The light looks a little different, right? So maybe when you visit California, if you follow Paco's Behance, if you follow Paco on Lightroom, you might be able to use some of his presets for there just to give you like a little bit of a different look, right? We're always constantly growing and changing, and recommended presets recommend things that you can do that are differently in how you manage colors.
Yeah, that is a great plug, my friend. I do have a question. Our friend Rob is asking, do all presets work in different color spaces, aka CMYK versus LAB versus index?
Is that Rob Sylvan? Because if so, I don't know why Rob would be in this chat. Rob wrote a book about Lightroom. It's probably just messing with me.
It's Rob Magnol.
Hey, well, shout out to Rob Magnol. I'm a big fan of the Magnol family. The whatever it is that you guys do, big fan, love it. Okay, so Rob, as far as I know, Lightroom works on RGB. So I think as long as you have the photos imported into Lightroom, it will like manage the color profile properly and then let you work from it. I don't think that it even gives you the option, but like I think that once they're imported, it will work like with whatever colors. I don't exactly know the answer to this. Paco might. We might have to ask someone else.
I'm with you. I'm pretty sure it's by default, everything's just kind of RGB. I mean, you do have the option, say in Photoshop, to change the color spaces, and maybe it'll be different there. But in Lightroom, I believe it's all RGB.
So just to give that plug for Rob and everyone else, if you right-click on your image, you can go edit in Photoshop. And let's hope this doesn't. Sometimes this works, and sometimes my computer is like, what are you making me do?
What are you trying to do? Live streaming and editing?
I just realized that
Dopegasm says Aundre has a great voice, like a movie announcer.
Thank you. A woman stopped me the other day and told me that I should be on radio, and I was like, "What does that mean?"
Did she hear you talk, or she just looked at you and assumed that?
No. She heard me talk. If she looked at me, I'd be offended.
Yeah, I was like, "Is that a compliment?" Wow, very cool. That's a compliment, regardless.
Second. Why aren't you? Okay, so if we hit edit in Photoshop, where'd you go, buddy?
Where you at, Photoshop? Still thinking?
No, I probably just didn't click it all the way. We'll give it 1 second. My computer is great, but my guy likes to go a little slow sometimes.
Well, I do have a time check for us. We do have about 25-ish minutes left.
Okay, great. Don't worry, we're all on.
Still got some time.
It wasn't launched. Yeah, we're gonna go over to how to make your own presets in a second. But once again, you can find me. Try to, if you like me on the internet, follow me on the internet, follow Paco on the internet. All right, let's just wait for this to open up. We're gonna once again hit edit in Photoshop. Sometimes I think Zoom gets tricky because I think the computer is like, what in tarnation? Oh, it's exporting it over here. That's what's happening. Hold on. Let's just exit all of these. Null these out. Yeah, it's thinking. I think it's just a lot going on. For y'all, I'm trying to live stream. I will give this a second. Do we have any questions or any statements? Anything that I can answer while I am just waiting the probably 15 seconds just to pull up.
So Rob responded about the color space question. And he says, thanks. Our company library is 64,000 images, mostly set up for print, so CMYK. Aundre, appreciate the answer.
Look, Rob, shout out to people that I think folks misunderstand. These are all tips for both creativity and for creative professionals. So please, if you have anything that you want to share as a professional, please do, or questions. We are trying our best to make sure everyone not only feels included, but feels like they left the stream with something great.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we did have a comment earlier saying, I can't get over how much knowledge has been shared during this stream, and it ain't even over yet. So a lot of knowledge being dropped here. Shout out to Aundre.
Paco, would you be so kind? While we wait, will you, it's probably hard for you. I didn't really think about this, but can we...
What's up?
put all the names together and just use a randomizer to pick who wins today, please? The people that just everyone
that
that's
is
commented.
a pickle. Let's figure that one out. I'll work behind the scenes with the mods, see if that's even possible.
Yeah.
But is the
Basically,
goal here
if you want to
just
win,
randomly pick someone who's been engaging in the chat with us?
yeah, anyone
CC
who's
subscription.
if you chatted at all today, and we'll give you, we'll randomize it, so we'll announce the winner in 10. We can do 15 minutes. That way, the mods have a little bit of time. But essentially, let's do 15 minutes. If there's something that you learned, I am incentivizing your engagement. Yes, I don't feel bad doing that. And who doesn't love using Lightroom and not having to pay for it for a little bit? So please just comment anything that you learned, comment anything you're looking forward to learning, or something that you'd like to learn more about. And then we will use all the engaged folks to, not the people that are engaged to get married, but the engaging folks in the chat. And we will choose someone today and someone tomorrow. And yeah, the good news is this is a stream with a lot of folks in it, but not so much that you have like lottery chances. You have a pretty good chance. So please be engaged. We appreciate you. Okay. Oh, it's in here.
Working behind the scenes as well
to
see how we can randomize it, but we'll figure it out.
So it's open in Lightroom. It's open in Photoshop. My bad. What we were talking about for Rob is we can go to image mode and change from RGB to CMYK. That way it's ready to print. It just changes the color profile. If you're printing at home, it's helpful to do, but if not, if you're using a printer, they usually can do it for you. That's all you send them the file. But that's all that Rob meant was I would just, everything you import can start in RGB, and then upon print or export, it can go into CMYK. But I believe Lightroom can handle it. Rob, I would tell you maybe to have everything organized in Classic, and then go group by group in Lightroom, and edit those from there. And that might be better for y'all since you have everything already culled and in like folders and stuff. Okay, so we're gonna close Photoshop because we ain't trying to do that right now. Don't save. Go away. One cool thing though is I did save. If I made an edit to Melanie's skin, let's say I want to take this earring away, it would then sync back in here. So then I would have the Photoshop edit live, which is pretty cool. But in the interest of making sure we get to what we need to get to, let's keep going. So we just talked about recommended presets. They work with Adobe Sensei, and based on how you edit. Oh, Photoshop, baby, go away. I don't need you right now.
Alessandro's asking, how do we get a chance to get the subscription? Just comment in the chat, my friend. So you, by asking that question, actually just answered and put in your candidacy. So yeah, we're gonna figure that out in about 15 minutes. We're gonna randomly pick somebody on the back end, and we will let you all know. So hang tight, everybody. Very cool. This is an Aundre special. This isn't something we usually do these days. And he's just like, I'm going to give away a CC subscription. So it's happening.
You guys were like, okay.
It's like, what's happening? But no, it's a great idea. And it's happening just by tuning into the stream and learning and engaging with us. So thank you all for joining.
So we're going to head over. We're going to leave this photo of Melanie behind. We love it very much. We're not going to use this photo of Ryan. We love Ryan.
That is a magnificent beard. Check that.
He no longer has it. He looks so different.
Oh, no.
Let's choose a photo.
Beard. Jealous.
Let's choose a fun photo for a preset. Hold on. So here's a photo of my friend Noemi. I love this photo. It's backlit, but there's this lovely detail. I'm going to make a version, which once again we're going to talk about tomorrow. I'm going to save this version. So we're just going to name this Paco. So versions essentially allows you to make different versions of one image. Wait, can you hear me, dude?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Sorry. For a second, I was like, oh, are we frozen?
No.
I was like pretty freaked out. Okay,
no, we're here. We're still here.
I was like, oh no, I'm stuck.
What happened? I wouldn't leave you hanging, man. No way.
In the shadow realm. I don't know. Sometimes. Okay, so let's make a new version.
The mountain realm. Who knows what can happen up in these mountains? All right, so you're creating a version, and we're calling it Paco. There it is. Great name.
Okay, so we're gonna go the original. So Paco is the current edit, and then the original. Wait a second. This is the edit we made. This is the original. So let's go back to the original. Now what we know
What is above her, by the way? This is a great photo. I'm just trying to figure out. Are these
This
just
is, it's like
sky
a
panels?
skylight. It's a skylight
Okay.
that it's like a, it was
Oh,
a
it's
hotel in
light. Okay.
DC from a couple years. This was like 2000. This is pre-COVID, you know,
Different times.
the time before the time. So let's edit this photo. First and foremost, I want to make everything a touch brighter. So I'm going to use exposure, not too much. Then I'm going to go back to the curve like I showed y'all and flatten it out a little bit by making my black point a little bit brighter. Then I'm going to bring my contrast up now because there's more room to play with. Contrast makes the darker parts darker and the brighter parts brighter. Bring my highlights up a little bit, just a little bit, because I don't want to lose the detail up here. Then I want to bring my shadows up a little bit, bring my contrast up a little bit more. And now we're kind of in a good spot. So we can even see our before. This is where we were. This is where we are now. We're still not all the way to Paco, which you can see it actually says the date it was made as well as what desktop, phone, how was it made. So we're here, but you see we're like around the same brightness, but we don't have the same color. So let's make this a little bit pinker, just a touch. And then let's get down into our color grade. Oh, that was a mistake. And basically I'm just gonna pick a little bit, midtone that's a little blue, shadow that's a little orange. And then I'm gonna go ahead and bring my, let's go down a little bit. I'm gonna go down to effects. So we have texture, clarity, dehaze. I'm gonna bring dehaze up a little bit. Dehaze, I don't know how to explain it. I'm sure Paco can explain it to you. I kind of look at dehaze as like a cousin of contrast. So
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. I don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but
yeah,
I mean, it does give a very contrasty effect where it's great. I think what the original intention was to kind of kill atmospheric haze or if you had something, but I actually use it for a lot of other uses. It's just another more intense aggro version of contrast that I think if you do it sparingly and lightly, I think you can actually give a really cool effect. And I tend to find myself using it a lot in adjustment layers or in masking. It's a cool slider to play around with. But yes, it does give contrast a lot.
I didn't notice I didn't use any color grading on the highlights because she has this white on, and like you notice how all of a sudden it'll kind of pervert the white in this way, and it also changed this background. So I just double tap, keep that where it was. But I feel pretty good. Let's just move this around a little bit, see if we can get a little warmer. So these are starting to get a little too dramatic for me. That's good. Nice and warm. We feel like we know where we're going. We'll bring our shadows up a little more, bring our exposure up a little more, bring our contrast up a little more. And now we have an edit that we feel good about, right? So we'll finish this under the client. Obviously you can hit share, share custom settings. This is important for what Rob was asking earlier. If you want to share it in DNG, the original, large, you can share a link. But you can also do this thing right here that says share to discover. So I know some of y'all are big TikTok folks, and you know on TikTok and Reels on Instagram, you can remix those and you can like take someone's reel. So Paco made a reel that was like, or I made a reel that was like, I love drink Gatorade. Then Paco made a reel that was like, people don't know this, but Florida State has its own sports drink. And then he's like, actually, it was made in this year, you know, whatever. The cool thing about
Gatorade was made by the Gators, right? So you definitely, yeah, it is a UF original.
Yeah, but like whatever. I don't know. Maybe you guys have one. Who cares? So I truly do not care. I know this is funny, but like, like whatever, right? We went to college. We had the opportunity to learn more things, and now we are professionals that people listen to, which is really great. And also, I know that we have about 15 minutes left. So let me pause for 1 second and say thank you to everyone that chose to come today, that came for 1 minute or the whole thing. I know that it's hard to, as I've heard a comedian say before, it's hard to do things. So thank you for choosing to do this thing with me. I actually had a very rough day, so this has actually been my favorite part of the day. So getting back to it, we have our versions, we have our edit we have now. So let's save this as live stream edit example. Right now we have an edit that's really specific. You can do a couple of things to make a preset. First, like I showed you before with the Discover files on the phone, you can hit share to discover. And now you have to give your edit a title. You can let folks save it as a preset for free directly in the edit. You can let people allow for remixing. And then it'll like, you know, say it's fashion, it's people, whatever. I don't want to do that. What I might want to do instead is, well, I can go to presets. I can hit the plus, and I can turn this into a preset that's in the group. Let's say in the Behance live streams, and I can just say Noemi. Call that Noemi. So now let's go to a different photo. Let's go to presets, go to mine, go to Behance live stream, and then go to Noemi. Let's wait a second. Close this.
Mark is asking, what is the opposite of aggro? That's a good question.
That's kind of a good question. It's kind of like if any of you watch Young Justice, we talk about whelmed. You can overwhelmed or underwhelmed, but you're never really just whelmed.
Oh god, I like that. The whelms. And we have picked somebody behind the scenes on who's going to win that CC subscription. So let me know when you're at a good stopping point.
We will be soon, but not just yet. Here, who doesn't love a... Hold on, wait a second. We all love food. Let's pick some food from this Thai restaurant. Now we're going to wait for it to load. Give it a second. Get over to edit. It's just loading the smart preview. Make it bright. I can make it dark. Let's wait 1 second. For whatever reason, it's just taking a second for me to sync. But basically, the preset I just saved, if I go to presets, I go to yours, and I go to Noemi, you'll see the edit I made for her skin. I'm going to now put over this food. Now, it may not look great, but the idea is you can make edits and you can sell them. I know a couple folks that, you know, every month they have some residual income from folks loving how they edit photos. My favorite person who edits is my friend Paula. I'm going to take a second while this is loading to just show you Paula's work. It's incredible. She was an Adobe Lightroom ambassador with me last year, and I don't know anybody that knows how to edit better than Paula. So, Maurice, make sure you check out her work, but her understanding of like tonality, the fact that she can like use masking to edit just this part versus this part.
That's a great image.
Everything just feels like a film that she makes.
I agree. That's a very good description. It's very filmic, very cinematic.
If the moderators who have been doing such a good job would you so kind as to add Paula's Instagram in, that'd be great. I would love for you to follow me, but if you for some reason can only add one of us, I'm very fine with that being Paula. So, okay, let's get back. How are we doing over here, buddy? You're not... Oh, weird. Here, I'm gonna unscreen share for a second. Oh.
Yep. Well, don't break the screen share. Just screen share on top of something if you need to, but I want away from your desktop if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, great. Just do our faces. I'm going to close Lightroom and open it back up. I think just every once in a while, it likes to act a little funny. And you know, this is how it always works. The winner. Let's announce the winner. You got it, bro.
Let's announce the winner. Okay. All right. So the person who has won a CC subscription, which we will be in touch from other people from the Adobe Live team, is
it me?
Let me pull it up. Yeah, it's both of us actually. Now it is Mark Hadley.
Mark Hadley,
congratulations. Yeah, I think he's the one. Yeah, he's the one that asked, what is the opposite of aggro?
Well done, Mark. That is the best way to win.
That's the best way to win. So congrats, Mark. Keep an eye out on your Behance, on your messages, because one of the members from our team will be reaching out about how to set that all up. So
while I'm pulling this up, Behance is important because it allows you not only to share your work, to find the work of other people, to integrate it directly with your Adobe stuff, but it also is kind of a fun thing because you can like a project like on Instagram, but you can go through and really see in detail what people are working on. Something about social, what's the word? About social platforms.
Going back to your screen now, is that cool?
Yep. Give me 1 second.
I'll hold off on it. Okay.
Social is really important. Understanding your audience on social media is important because it just gives folks the opportunity to know what they're expecting. So on YouTube, people know that they're going to watch something that's more than a couple minutes. Versus on Instagram, like, you know, you're trying to scroll, or TikTok, you're trying to scroll and keep moving. So just keep in mind that don't sleep on Behance. It's a great way for you to share your work and for it to look put together in a professional way. And if you have a Creative Cloud subscription already, you can take a Behance project and you can place it on Adobe Portfolio. I've done that before with some of my residency projects.
Very cool. We do have a comment saying, I don't know if my feedback gets to you, but I feel like masking in the new Lightroom Classic has become difficult. Have you tried masking in the new Lightroom, Andre? Where they totally revamped it? Okay.
I have. Yes, I have.
Okay.
I said that.
I think it's amazing. I'm going to be in the camp, which I know it's a total breakaway from what the masking used to be, but it feels way more intuitive and way more in depth. And I'm not just saying this because I work for Adobe. I genuinely do feel like
Do you
my
work for
edits and
Adobe?
my
Is that what we're?
oh, is that what we're doing? What are we live on right now? No, but as a personal, even as a personal landscape photographer, as something I do in my hobby, I think the new masking features have really just game changed the way that I edit my landscape photos. So I encourage you all to check it out. I know it can be frustrating to totally rework something, especially if you've been working it for years. But man, you're just able to do so much masking, so much more fine tune than what you used to do before. So that's my plug. Again, totally my opinion without having any business influence behind it. I really do think it's great.
I agree. Let's cut back to my phone. I thought it would be important to see it here.
Let's
So
go back to the
remember
phone.
we made the preset on the desktop. You're like, well, it must take a minute for it to be there. Nope. It's already here right now.
There it is, folks.
So now this looks way different because the lighting source is different, everything. But remember, it's a starting point. So let's bring our exposure down. Let's go to color and choose something that's supposed to be white. And then we have something, right? Because remember, if you look at these presets already, I didn't slide much, but you see there's all these things that are slid already. So what you can do is you can take a preset, just like, let's go back to this photo. Let's go to back to presets. We pick Noemi, and you can see that we can name it, we can update it with current settings, but you can also export it, and you can use WeTransfer, Dropbox, Patreon, Gumroad, and you can sell them by exporting, which I'm going to show you now by switching back to my computer that I need to do. So hold on, everybody. Oh. Okay, so if we go to this photo on the computer, this is a photo I took a while ago for this project I did about immigration called Nation of Newcomers. We're going to hit presets. I love that Lightroom chooses right now to act funny. We'll go to the Noemi preset again. You'll see that's not really for her skin. I made it for a more dark skinned black woman with natural light. This is artificial light. But let's say that someone wants this preset. I'm going to tap these three dots. And I'm going to hit, or not that. I take it back. Excuse me. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to hit export. And then I can export this preset wherever I want. And it's going to export it as a file that other folks can download, import directly to their Lightroom Classic, and use it if I want to sell it. If I don't want to sell it, let's go back to Learn and Discover, which we have over here. So let's change this edit. Let's go back to what we were doing. We'll go back to Learn and Discover, go to the top, go to Discover Files. We'll go over to my page. Shout out to all these folks. Shout out to that baby elephant I just saw.
Shout out to the baby elephant.
Actually, let's go to other ones because going to mine is silly because I have my own presets ready. But let's go to pick one that I like.
There's some cool stuff here. A lot of inspiration.
Let's go to Farhan. So we like Farhan. It's missile team food. Shout out to Farhan. You'll see that right here it has save as presets. If I tap this, now if you can make these free to the community, or you can on Lightroom, or you can sell them, whatever you think is best. But you can see that it's saved by the name of the preset, or excuse me, yeah, it was this name of the preset and the name of the person who made it, and you can choose the group. Save from Discover is helpful because it'll just keep everything saved from there in there, and then you could reorganize it to be like food presets, presets for color, presets for a darker skin tone, presets for a white person, whatever works for you. Something also to point out, we talked about premium presets before. Let's go. No, I don't want to use that photo. I take it back. Let's go down to this section. 1 second, everybody.
Just a quick time check. We do have about 1 minute left, Andre. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then
flew by. So we got 1 minute. We got to start wrapping up here.
Okay. Here, just cut to my face then. We'll worry about this later. So, we have talked about how to use Lightroom camera, how recommended presets work, and how you can sell your own presets as well as make them free to the community. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about versions. We're going to talk about how to put your photos in CCX. And we're also going to give away another CC subscription. So please come, please tell your friends. And if you haven't already, please follow me on the internet, join my Discord, be nice to Paco. Thank you to the moderators. And if you have a paid version of Adobe Creative Cloud, please remember that you have premium presets available to you. I made some that are all about editing darker skin tones. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And if there's anything you learned or things you want to learn about tomorrow, you can DM me, you can DM Paco, and we will add those in for tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. Just gonna give my last closing statements. Stay tuned. We do have the Creative Encore for the XD Daily Creative Challenge coming up. We will be back tomorrow, and as Andre said, there's gonna be another chance to win a CC subscription. So make sure you tune with us tomorrow, and you might get a chance to win. So that is all for us today. Echoing all the words that Andre said, it's been amazing having you guys here. I've had a lot of fun. Always great hanging out with Andre, and we will see you all tomorrow, same time. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.